The August 2022 Level 2 CFA exam results were posted today, and the overall pass rate was 40%. A 40% pass rate was a bit of a decline from what we saw earlier in the year, but it isn't all that much lower than what I'll call historical norms, so we'll talk about both of those things. One curious point about these results, though, is that the minimum passing score estimates from 300hours.com actually showed a lower minimum passing score hurdle relative to the prior level 2 setting. Finally, just looking at some of the feedback that we've seen on Reddit and on comments on my YouTube videos related to the level 1 exam, of which the results were posted last week, the general sentiment that I've seen is that the exam questions were a bit easier than the mock exam questions and the blue boxes and EOCs and all the other practice questions that most people felt that they were working on. Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree, but my thinking was that if the general sentiment was that the level 1 exam questions were easier on the recent sitting, then that trend would have carried over to this level 2 sitting. The questions would have been a bit easier than in examples in the past, and with a now lower minimum passing score estimate, we would expect to see a pass rate that's actually rising. It didn't. So why not? I would like to extend a very sincere congratulations to anybody watching this video who learned this morning, or I guess yesterday, or any day previously, that they passed a level 2 CFA exam. The level 2 exam is debatably the most difficult of the 3 tests from the CFA Institute, and actually we've discussed on this channel in the past, but the CFA exams may be in the top handful of most difficult academic programs in the world, making the level 2 exam one of the hardest things that you could ever try to overcome academically. So to clear that test on its own is a massive accomplishment. Additionally, if you buy into the logic that the level 2 exam is a little bit tougher than the level 3 exam, then passing the level 2 exam should almost be proof in and of itself that you know you are going to become a CFA charter holder in the future. That's a huge deal. You should feel on top of the world. Congratulations. Just don't get lazy next year. The level 3 exam is still extremely difficult. It's much harder than the level 1 exam, but maybe it's slightly easier than level 2. So you should study equally as much as you did this time around, and you can go in with a fair degree of confidence that you're going to be well prepared. Lastly, another great point about passing the level 2 exam is that you can now write CFA Level 2 before your name on your LinkedIn profile. Just kidding, please do not do that. It's an ethics violation. If you do that, don't point the ethics committee to this video. If you're someone who happened to fail the recent level 2 test, there are some specific steps that you can take to improve or maybe drastically improve your chances of passing the next time around. I can't imagine how difficult it would be to get that email that you did not pass, but just know that it's very unlikely that you did 100% of everything in your power to prepare this time around, which means you can likely improve, even if only marginally, for the next sitting that you register for and hopefully clear that one. So just focus on the road ahead. Back to the numbers now. A 40% pass rate. Not terrible, not what many of you may have hoped to see, not what I kind of expected to see, given that it seemed like the general sentiment was that the prior level 1 exam from August of this year was a bit easier relative to some of the questions that we've seen on CFA exams in the past, where tons of candidates say that was way more difficult. They asked me questions I had never seen before, that type of thing. But still, 40% isn't much lower than, like I said earlier, a long-term average. So there's definitely no major concern of the Institute making big changes that they're not informing us about or anything like that. That was more of the rhetoric during 2021. If you took that test, let me know what you think about the relative difficulty compared to a lot of the prep that you did. Was it actually easier like I'm thinking it may have been because that's the sentiment from the level 1 exam? Or was it totally different and these questions were actually a lot harder? Given that the minimum passing score estimate is lower, meaning that there was a lower percentage hurdle that you had to clear to get a pass result on this test, maybe it was the fact that the average difficulty of the questions was harder. Logically, that could make sense for the standard setters to set a lower minimum passing score, but maybe they should have lowered it a bit further to get a pass rate that was a little bit higher to get equal to those historical norms that I'm thinking of. So again, let me know. Was it harder than what you thought, easier than what you thought? Are you happy you passed? What's your plans to move forward if you didn't pass? I was just looking at the CFA Reddit page, and there were plenty of people actually sharing the fact that they did not pass, which I totally commend them for. That would be really difficult to post publicly online after getting that type of, honestly, what I would consider devastating news. It seemed that many cycles in the past, I've seen 99% of posts from people who passed and very few non-passers speak up. People are doing that on Reddit this time. So I would encourage you to do the same here, not to call yourself out or anything, but just to allow for further discussion with anyone else who may have been in the same boat as you. The big question for anyone who did pass that test is that, are you going to try to take the level 3 exam in February of 2023? I'm looking at the CFA's website, and the registration period for that test closes November 8th of this year, so you have a few weeks to decide. And someone correct me if I'm wrong, if August 2022 level 2 passers cannot enroll for the February 2023 level 3 exam. I believe you can, but don't take my word for it here. I just want to talk about the possibility of studying enough to pass the level 3 exam between now and the middle of February of next year. If you started studying tomorrow for the upcoming level 3 exam and you followed my study strategy, which obviously everyone will not, but it's 3 hours a day every day up until the test, you would get in about 380 hours of study for that sitting. And it's the third week of February, February 20th. From now until February 20th, 3 hours a day would get you about 380. In my opinion, 380 hours is not nearly enough to prepare well for the level 3 sitting. Now, there are definitely people who have passed it with 380 hours or less than that, some far less than that. But I think those people would be the minority. And in my opinion, the majority of passers study for more than 300 hours, and the majority of people who are well prepared, meaning they clear the hurdle and then some to make sure that they're confident that they can do what they need to do on the test. I would say 95% of people who are really well prepared for the exam study more than 400 hours. Just based on the demographics that we know about CFA exam candidates, it's not likely that someone considering registering for the level 3 test is 38 and has a family of 4 and has to become a charter holder, or they get kicked off the fund that they're managing or something like that. So my point is, be patient. Don't rush this if you don't have to. And if you're someone who knows you need to prepare a lot, like I knew I had to, then don't try to sit for the February sitting. Give yourself an extra 4 months or 6 months past then and register for the next one. Then you'll be able to study 500 or 600 hours and know that you are very well prepared. You'll likely feel more confident, and realistically, you're just going to give yourself a much higher probability of passing the level 3 test and becoming a charter holder if you give yourself enough time to prepare well. Now, of course, if you are a genius, just register for February, study 100 hours, and you're going to pass. Or if you are under some dire time constraint to become a charter holder and you need to rush this as much as possible, sure, register for February. But my recommendation would be to study more than the 21 hours a week that I always did. Maybe you need to study 30 hours a week so that you can hit 500 hours or something around that mark. And trust me, I understand that what I'm talking about is not the conventional 300 hours recommendation. Remember that if the average candidate studies 300 hours, the average candidate fails. Actually, less than 20% of people who sign up for the level 1 exam ultimately become charter holders. And recently that number's been less than 10%. Let me reiterate that point then. The average candidate fails, and even the above average candidate fails. It's only the top 15% or so of candidates who become charter holders. So in my opinion, a fair recommendation was that you should be in the top 15% of total amount of hours studied if you want to give yourself a fighting chance. And I'm just going to leave it at that. That point right there, I think, sums up 90% of what I can share in regards to advice studying for the CFA exams. So again, congratulations to anyone who passed. Let me know in the comments if you thought it was easy or difficult. To anyone who failed, I don't even exactly know what to tell you. I know that would be extremely difficult to deal with. All you can do is be positive and focus on the road ahead. Especially if you were close to passing, you can certainly cover that hurdle next time around if you prepare just a little bit better. So as always, thanks for watching.